Sheesh. Yeah, big time. No man, no. Diamonds in my teeth, I got a lot of shine.
Oh, yes, everybody. Welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. I am Flex Matt. He is Brandon Adam. And joining us today again is Shane, Flex Shane at the Flex Network 1. It's been a while, guys, since we three have been on Talking Rookies. We were on a little bit during the season, us three talking through a lot of stuff. Brandon, specifically, we were 1 win away from our Seahawks prediction. Seahawks went 10 wins. We predicted them 11 wins. We were pretty dang close, for our Seahawks. But now as we tap out of the regular season and into the Dynasty domain, we are here to talk our favorite thing in fantasy football, which is the rookies. We are in a fever pitch right now, post Combine, and we have a lot of things to talk about. But first, please join DFS Army if you want to win life-changing money. I was just telling my girlfriend the other day, I was like, DFS Army has won the million in the last 5 years at least 4 times across different sports. Fantasy football one, golf is another one. They keep crushing it. They have real guys that help you out, people that respond, that go in. We're making bets daily, weekly, big bets, monster bets. Follow DFS Army at DFS Army. Brandon, here we are talking rookies. Last year we started, it was primarily me and you until post-draft. And now Shane's getting his feet a little wet, a little post-combine, a little pre-draft. But I'm excited to talk rookies with you, Brandon. I'd like to open this question up. Are you drafting Travis Hunter in the first 11 picks?
No.
Neither am I. Shane, what do you think? Because I knew Brandon was going to say no, but Shane, what do you think about Travis Hunter? Is he draftable in the first 11 picks in Dynasty fantasy football, even in non-super flex in first 11 picks?
I think it's too risky right now, to be honest with you. Like, obviously we have the benefit of the actual NFL draft come rookie draft season, which is typically early May, shortly after the draft. But as of right now, like, again, so I think Brandon, you and Matt are definitely more into the actual watching the college game, whereas this is my time of year where I really start to dig into it. And Matt, like last year I was moving, in the process of a move, so it was madness during this time. But this time I'm into it. You sit, you watch, you listen to a lot of smart people, a lot of smart analysts, and Travis Hunter's superpower is cornerback. Like, that's a superpower. So can he be a good wide receiver? Probably. Can he be above average wide receiver? Probably. Does he have Jamar Chase in his range of outcomes? I don't quite see it yet. Or Odell Beckham, maybe. Yeah. Right. Like, so as we get more clarity, it'll be much easier to answer this question. If we were in some sort of maniacal league, like, Matt, I know you run that pre-draft league, just to get a pulse and everything, where the market's standing.
Which I'm going to try to get that going. I'm going to try to get that going again here and probably this next week, just to get a little post-combine, because I feel like, it's really nice to be like, oh, yeah, we see the landing spots. Now we have a take on a player. It's like, give me your nuts, put them on the table, and tell me what you think.
We got to talk about it before. We got to talk about it beforehand, Like last year, we did pre-combine rankings. We did post-combine rankings, and then it went into after draft rankings and all that, and then it really started, that's when it really gets real. But it's interesting. I will reserve the right, if Travis Hunter says I am a full-time wide receiver and that's it, I reserve the right to put him at number 1 wide receiver at any point. At any point, dude. At any point. If he comes out and says, I am solely focused on the wide receiver position, the coaching staff and I are on the same page where I get drafted, he's my wide receiver 1, no doubt. Like, I reserve that right. But outside of that, I think it's easier if he's going to play both. It's easier for him to just be full-time corner and then come in on packages and have design plays at the offensive end. Like, could he be Jaden Reed? Like, Could he crush it like Jaden Reed on designed, schemed oriented things that are going to get him the ball no matter what when he's on the field? So it doesn't really matter that he's not on the field all the time, because when he is on the field, he's getting the targets. But that like the floor for him is Jaden Reed to me if he plays both sides, and then the ceiling for him is like Odell Beckham-esque with bigger size and more aggressiveness at the point of contact in the air, to me. So he would go to number one for sure for me, because he does it for the wide receiver position. This draft class does lack that star, and like the no doubt star alien athlete, and that unfortunately is Travis Hunter for the wide receiver position, but we don't know what's going to happen with him.
Go ahead.
I just to go on that, like one of the things that kind of just in general worries me is that if a team does bring him in and the expectation is he's going to play both sides of the ball, how I would equate that from an offensive perspective is the tight end position, right? Like one of the reasons we have to be so patient with tight ends in fantasy football is because it's really hard to learn not one but two positions, right? They're sitting in different rooms, be it the wide receiver room, the offensive line room. It makes it really, really hard to become a master in a particular position. So that's what the risk is. If a team brings him in and expects him to play, I don't know, even if it's like 80-20, then obviously if the 20% is a wide receiver position, well, then you need volume, right? It's like when a wide receiver gets 10, 12 targets in a game, like that's elite level production or opportunity, right? So if this guy's only on for 20% of the snaps, that to me is a non-starter.
Like if he's on for the 40%, let's just say 40%. Let's give it that's the real number that he's going to shoot for if he plays both sides, is that team is going to have him on there for 40%. And I'll take a shot in the second round. I will. But if it's like between, let's say, Trey Harris and Travis Hunter, I'm taking Trey Harris, because I know he's full-time, dedicated, and that's what he's going to be drafted for. But like I said, there's only one real alien in this two aliens in this draft class with Genty and Travis Hunter, but I reserve the right to put him directly on top. Like, no doubt.
Yeah, well, I will say that, I will agree that you specifically will, because I know that when we first drummed our opinions about the class, I know that me and you were way ahead because we did watch the college game a lot this year. You specifically being a lot more a fan of Colorado being there. So it's, you like Travis Hunter. I don't personally like him at all. I think I think what it is I'm just kind of turned off by the gimmick. I'm turned off by Deion Sanders. It feels like he forced a guy to do both sides and then force-fed him the ball from his own son. And I'm okay with it. I'm thinking it could have been both sides, of the thing. It could have been somebody else. It didn't always have to be Travis Hunter. So I think that he's typecasted into this guy that ends up being that, the guy that is in this, outcome. It could have been anybody else. I do think that he does play wide receiver in the NFL. I think there's no way that a team drafts him in the top 5, top 10 and says, hey, go show us what you can do on the offensive side. It's an offensive game. I understand we want guys to shut down receivers. We want corners to do that. But
the money, baby. What about the money? Nobody wants to talk about that too.
Well, but that's another thing. I think that obviously and I said this in our group chat, Travis Hunter is going to do absolutely everything that he can in his first 5 years as a pro to get a wide receiver contract in a second contract. He might pull back. Then they might say, okay, let's run a 40%. So I do think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to be viable for fantasy football because I just don't think that what he's going to try to do is going to work in the NFL. I'm okay with eating my words because I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm saying he can. I just don't think he's going to be freaking anybody. And I would rather trade the pick for somebody else and get somebody that can produce on my fantasy football team right now.
Yeah. I get
So
it, dude.
let's get off Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Let's get on to the conversation that we were having before we stepped onto air, is the tight end. And I think this year, a bunch of data has came out recently about what the betting odds are essentially for a tight end in the first round. I specifically got this information from Dynasty Land Fantasy Football, who put this data together, but I'm sure this data, it's not data you can't find anywhere for anything. I think they just happened to collage the data and then put it out there. But RAS scores, relative athletic scores, from in the 8 to 10, which is essentially 10 being the highest you can go, 8 being, an above average athlete, 9.6 is about where near every running back is in this damn class. But a RAS score 8 to 10, the fact of them being from 2000 to 2024, so over 24 years, they have a 77% hit rate to be a Pro Bowl starter, which is or better, okay, which is a very high hit rate. And then star status, which ends up being, I think, a top 24 season. Out of the first round tight ends, they are 80% hit rate from 2014 to 2024. So essentially in our most recent history, 80% hit rate. Dalton Kincaid, right, ends up being that one that's a little bit tough, right? So it's like this profile looks really, really good. But this year, I think fantasy analysts especially, and players alike, which is who our podcast is really structured around, hey, we're not going to tell you that we're the best or that you should, but we're going to tell you how we feel. And we feel like we're going to give you actionable advice to go out there and play your dynasty leagues. And I think that the tight ends this year, they're going to end up a lot higher in tight end premium leagues than I think that we're really ready for. Specifically the two at the top. Okay. So it really seems like they may squeak in where a Tet McMillan or somebody that's scared off Travis Hunter or scared off anyone else is really going to be able to go. So I'm seeing 2 tight ends in the top 10 this year, which when we drafted Dalton Kincaid in that year of 2 tight ends, they were at the back end of the first round. Nobody was really super incredibly happy to draft them, but they took them because we didn't really know where we were at. This year, it seems like the top 2 tight ends with Loveland going in the 10, but your top 5 is where Tyler Warren is going right now in tight end premium leagues. Brandon, do you like that? I mean, based on the data, it's a better shot to go that route than it is right now, as far as, it looks like RB in the first round, right? So we'll get to RBs. That's at 85%, but tight end is the next best at 80%, with wide receivers being only 53%. So if you get a first round tight end, top 15, Brandon, are you going to select him over Tet McMillan at 3? Or at 4, or let's say Amarion is gone, and your 2 first round running backs are gone. Are you going tight end in a tight end premium league over Tet McMillan?
I think it's very close. I think McMillan's actually I think his star is kind of drifting back down a little bit. I think he was early on, he was a consensus 102, right? That's where most people had him, 102, Hampton 103, and then you see Tyler Warren in tight end premium leagues there, even before Cam Ward in Superflex as well. So I agree with that. I have to agree with that because you're right, with the numbers are the numbers. Like, even if I felt like you can somewhat punt the tight end position in Dynasty, but it's very hard to acquire a Trey McBride, try and buy Bowers right now. Good luck. You're not going to buy Bowers from anybody. And I think you kind of have to do that unless he ends up on the Saints, then probably not. Like, or something like I don't like, if a tight end ends up there, then I'm just going to fade it because I really don't think the Saints are going anywhere. And that's kind of like the place where I hope nobody falls that I like that goes there. But I really do like Tyler Warren. Yeah, Tyler Warren is in that class. Even though he's an older, prospect, he is, what was he, 19?
Well,
He came in
specifically
19?
about Trey
Nobody-
McBride, Trey McBride was 55th overall, so he doesn't even count. We're talking about first round tight ends, Dalton Kincaid,
Dalton Kincaid burned
Bowers.
me, but I'll take the risk if the tight end's in the top 10 for sure.
And that's what I'm saying.
So,
Tyler Warren has been mocked to go top 10 this year.
They have, yes.
So when I look at just like a consensus NFL mock draft index, which this is from Player Profile, they essentially pull data from a whole bunch of different sites. So this just isn't them; it's they index it. He is currently being mocked to go at pick 12 overall. So that's right around where Brock Bowers went, right? Because I think Brock Bowers went at pick 12 last year, if I remember correctly. To Las Vegas, right?
9.
So, what was it? 9?
You're right. It's 12. It was 12. You're right.
It was right around that range. So I think, and this is what's kind of interesting, right? Like, so just to kind of take a step back, right, Matt? Like when we're trying to put these in, and we talk about, like, one of the things we really pride ourselves on is we tier our players, right? And which is really important, especially in drafts, because then as you're trying to move around those rookie drafts, you understand the value of a pick, right? You can go to a trade calculator, but if you know that Tat McMillan and Tyler Warren are going to be in the same tier, but then you look and there's an Emeka Buka or Matthew Golden, a Luther Burden, well, then you might as well pass on Tet, go and take Tyler Warren, and then you're laughing because you can get the unicorn, and then you can get a guy a little bit later, right? So there's a little bit of strategy to that as well, and that, I think, really comes down to your tiering system. But I think what's really interesting is that this year in a draft, it's like normally you come in and there's like, even in like an elite running back class, there's usually 1 or 2 elite guys, right? And then there's depth. In this class, there's really 4 elite guys, right? Like, so right at the top, there's Ashton Genty, then there's Amarian Hampton of North Carolina, Trevion Henderson, and then Quinshon Judkins, right? So those guys are kind of the 4 big studs. Yes. And then you've got, from the tight end position, you've got Tyler Warren from Penn State. And then the problem is, like, so we're talking about Superflex here, guys, right? Like, generally speaking, we always play Superflex. We haven't even talked about Cam Ward yet, who is projected to be the number 1 quarterback off the board. Potentially could go one overall to Tennessee, or if the Giants decide to trade up. But the problem becomes, for those of you who aren't really obsessed with this whole process right now, is that there's a lot of really smart people out there that says there are 0 first-round talent quarterbacks in this draft this year. Now, Cam Ward, I think, generally speaking, is generally the consensus number 1 quarterback, and we know how quarterback thirsty the NFL is, and we know the value of the quarterback position. So, to me, when I'm ranking my players here, and I'm tiering up my players, like, I've got Ashton Genty kind of in a standalone tier, and then you've got Amarian Hampton, which I love this kid. Like, I
fucking love Hampton. Yeah.
But so then there's like that tier of like Trevion Henderson, Tyler Warren, Tat McMillan, and then you could almost throw Cam Ward in there. So to me, guys, like, is that a tier, or are we saying, listen, we understand it's super flex. We understand that if you want to win money, historically, you go after the wide receiver. You get young wide receivers on your team, and you trade for running backs later. We're kind of going against convention here. We're saying you draft the running backs, you draft the tight end, and then you're going to start talking about the wide receiver and the quarterbacks. Like, is that crazy? Is that cockamamie, Matt?
Well, yes, it's cockamamie, but it's only cockamamie because, and Mike, our beloved Mike Dickinson, had said, well, the reason why the wide receiver number is so low or lower in the 50th percentile is because there are just flat out more of them. So yes, when you get more wide receivers drafted, your number goes down. But see, I argue that a little bit. Yes, the hit rate is lower, but it doesn't change the talent of the player. So it's like, hey, if the guy's good, he should cement it. So what's happening is the NFL is drafting more wide receivers that don't belong in the first round. Okay. And they're not drafting enough tight ends that might belong in the first round. And I think that as this statistical evidence comes back around, the running backs are going to start going higher and higher again. And I think that's what's going to change this entire thing, because you look at the Josh Jacobs, you look at all these players, Kyron Williams, these guys that are becoming extremely valuable assets for teams. And now it's not so much, oh, well, you can get a boatload of running backs from the second round on. As long as we don't draft them in the first round, you should be fine. You pick from 1 to 2, the position, just throw them out there. They have production. No, that's not true, because not everyone can do what Josh Jacobs or Kyron Williams can do. You saw it with Corum, right? Corum gets thrown in there. He can't do it. But then the adverse to that is you saw Bucky Irving, 4th round pick, gets thrown in there, can do it. Well,
Jude
what
Hubbard.
do we know? This is the key, and I think this is the actionable evidence that we will get into our running back conversation is, and Brandon and I hit on this a lot earlier. I remember last year when we were all over Bucky Irving in our top 5, and then we got hit up by people on Twitter is like, oh, wow, ever since your podcast, I'm drafting so much more Bucky Irving in the 120 picks in best ball, and I'm just taking darts on him. He gets drafted into the 4th round. He actually falls even more. Now you look like a fucking hero when you're drafting Bucky Irving and best ball at 128th overall, and because you listen to our podcast. And I think the difference is the pass catching upside.
Yes.
When you have pass catching upside, it's now a different argument that you have about these running backs. Now, without the pass catching upside, you need to hit like Derrick Henry. You need to hit in such a way, and you have to be such a monster, Najee Harris. But Najee Harris does have pass catching upside, right?
A little bit.
The running back for the Lions, hit me again, David Montgomery, right? So you have to literally either slump yourself into a role where, okay, you're not the pass catching guy. We're going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs, and we just need you to take the beating, be the goal line guy. And you get into a team like the Lions that can suffice you being a goal line guy and have production. But outside of those perfect landing spots, I'm looking at this draft specifically, which JJ Zacharyson mentioned that this is a top 3 running back draft class, like of all time. Yep. Okay. Which is incredible to say. There's so much high-end opportunity with these guys. I'm trying to sift through the weeds and find the Bucky Irvings in this class. I need to find the guys that will be pass-catching guys, that it'll be tough to take them off the field, not because they can't block, but because I think the offenses are getting more dynamic, and they want to feature more guys that they can get the ball to, short area quickness, get out there 7 to 10 yards, Bucky Irving. And I think that it's cockamamie to think that all of a sudden we just didn't know that. Well, we did. We became elitists. We became sizeists. I remember, Brandon, you're a guy that went to Tennessee that sucks now, and you loved him. What's his name again?
Burks.
Treylon Burks. We became sizeists because A.J. Brown was around, because DK Metcalf was around, because these guys were coming out, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, 6'2", 230, 4'4", right? We were seeing that, and we hadn't saw it for a while. We were looking at Julio Jones type comps because it just had. Now it's not so much the case. Now we're looking at pass catching running backs as the real way and path to getting into fantasy football stardom, and then hitting on these wide receivers and hitting on these tight ends. The quarterbacks seem like they're a dime a dozen nowadays. Don't you feel that way?
Yes, I feel like you could tear down with the quarterback position that's the easiest one where you can create value for your teams if you're in a pinch.
And these veterans, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, Matt Stafford, they're coming out here and having decent fantasy football years to where you feel like, well, I don't have to draft Caleb Williams.
Yep.
I can instead get Malik and Brian Thomas Jr. and feel like I fucking hit the lottery. You know what I mean? Or
you could have took Marvin. You could have took Marvin, and you're feeling
Marvin's still a hit. I think Marvin's still going to be a hit.
I think he's like I don't know. He was like a double this year. He was a double this year. Yeah,
I agree.
And there is some there. I don't know. Like I've seen some stuff on X saying that there's possibility that Kyler Murray might be moved. If that is a possibility, Giants are possible. That I've heard that could be sniffing around Kyler Murray for a trade. I saw that as a rumor mill thing. So I don't know It might be a Kyler Murray thing with Marvin. Who knows? But yeah, I think this is all about drafting the talent. The top drafts. Don't trick yourself out of drafting the best talent in front of you. And the talent in front of you in this draft is going to be the running back position, especially, it's going to be Genty. It's going to be Hampton. It's going to be Henderson. And then it's like, you could argue Judkins or Henderson, whatever way you want to go with whatever kind of running back scheme you want to run. It really depends on pick your flavor there. And like you said, the tight ends, Tyler Warren is going to be a problem. So, and then Cam Ward is coming in at 106, most likely, right? That's where people are starting to probably take Cam Ward, especially if he ends up.
Well, if you're smart, smart, Cam Ward has to be knocked down a little bit because. Go ahead.
Are you taking Quinshon Judkins or are you taking Cam Ward?
I'm taking Quinshon. I like Quinshon a lot. I like Quinshon a lot.
Me too, dude.
Most recently, it was so great because the measurables changed his comp. And that is what's really great. It moved him into the Joe Mixon territory. He is Joe Mixon. Quinshon Judkins is Joe Mixon. To be honest with you, Brandon, and it was Travion Henderson for so long. It really was. But now, and I'm not going to lie, Travion Henderson has been knocked down a little bit to me. After I continue to look at the injury, I continue to look at how, he has to be a scat back. He has to be utilized as a secondary option. I think they could give him the primary role. I just don't know that that's a good idea. And I think at this point, especially with Ohio State and what they did, I just feel like they typecasted him. The NFL is going to typecast him. It's about what will he be able to do with the touches, in my personal opinion, because I don't think he's going to get the lion's share. And I'm just not willing to draft that guy this year with the plethora of options. Go ahead, Brent.
Okay. So, dude, I think you and I like similar kind of backs. So my comp for Judkins was actually Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt with a little bit more juice to him, and hopefully a little bit better hands. But I mean, Kareem Hunt produced a top 5 RB season with Kansas City as a rookie. He produced this kind of impact, and I think Judkins is a similar way. Judkins, similar height, weight, 6 foot 220, just a battering ram. He can set up easy screens, take it to the house. I was listening to I forget which pod, but they were saying that he was getting run down from behind and stuff. But honestly, I see him finishing big long runs for touchdowns. I see his fair share of explosion. The only thing is that Jax Falcone, I was listening to Jax, he did mention the cool thing about Henderson versus Judkins is that you can look at the yards per carry for both players, and Henderson was over 1.5 yards better on average than Judkins. So he did have some more explosion to him, but you're right, the injury issues, he's a smaller back. I think DeAndre Swift is very much in his realm of outcomes where he can be with his size and weight. And I think his ability, I really see a lot of DeAndre Swift in him.
Shane, what do you think about the because I know you're going to have to split hairs in the top 7 between Henderson and Judkins. And it's going to be the age old story. I feel like as we continue to go year over year is these dual purpose running backs on similar teams, because I think at this point what's going to start happening with the NIL is that these players aren't going to find themselves on bad teams. Like that's how you end up getting paid. When you're in the college football playoffs, you look at Quinshon Judkins, who made the move to Ohio State when Travion Henderson was already there. You knew they told him, hey, you're going to be a secondary back, or not a secondary back, but you're splitting the timeshare. Guess what happened? Still went to Ohio State. Still took the opportunity to split his positive outcome. you're going to end up seeing this more and more, I feel like. So you're going to have to split these hairs. Shane, how do you split the Travion Henderson, Quinshon's hairs?
Well, so I mean, the most obvious thing is after the draft where they landed, right? Like if it lands in a system where they're going to be the guy, the every down back, like if either of these guys have first round draft capital, like that's a smash, right? Now, obviously we don't know that. And the big difference here, just for the people, right? Because again, this is an introduction for a lot of the guys. So Quinshon Judkins, he's 6 foot 221. He ran a 4.48 40 last week at the combine, which is a 91st speed score. That's fast as hell for a guy his size, right?
Hell yeah.
You got Travion on the other side. He's 5'10", 202, so he's a little bit lighter. Quick as hell, though. He ran a 4.43, which was an 80th percentile speed score. So for his size, he didn't run much faster than Travion than Quinshon.
Yeah, but can I mention? Go ahead. Yep. I feel like you're going to get here.
Yeah, well, well, maybe, but the big difference I find is just the overall reception prowess, right? Like,
yes,
the thing we have to remember is that both these players are on the same team. They've got the same coaching staff, and the coaching staff decides, okay, Quinshon, this is your role. You are the battering. You are the David Montgomery in this offense, right? And then you got to Travion Henderson, and he's like, okay, you're going to be our scat back. You're going to be the quick guy. You're going to be the guy catching passes. But the thing is, in the NFL, if either of these guys go to the right team, both of them could be elite. But which one's the stronger pass catcher? To me, that's what's going to really be the deciding factor for me. And that's why I do slightly lean Travion Henderson. Like his tape just kind of pops a little bit more for me. Like I got to do more. I've watched a bunch of Travion, but I haven't watched as much Quinshon. I've maybe watched one or two of his games. But at this point, like Travion kind of jumps off the page a little bit more for me. But so much like between guys at this level, at this elite tier, I'm happy with both of them, frankly. From an age perspective, Quinshon has a year on him, right? Like Travion is 22 and a half. Quinshon is 21 and a half. So does that make a difference? Maybe.
Yes.
Like that's a slight advantage, right? So there's all these little things where, okay, you get a tick here for Quinshon, you get a tick here for Travion. It's bloody close. It's really, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these guys. I would have them in a similar tier.
So yeah, before the combine, it pushed it allowed, like you said, it expanded his ceiling. It raised his ceiling, what he could be. I mean, if you look the RAS score, it was a 9.89 RAS score. That was the best of the RB class for Judkins. Right behind him was Raheem Sanders at 9.87, DJ Giddens at 9.78, Donovan Edwards at 9.68, and then my guy, Amarian Hampton at 9.61. Travion Henderson as 9.43. So it's a little bit of a drop off for sure to Henderson for that prowess, for physique prowess, for being able to be.
It's just size related. That's all it is.
Yeah. And honestly, though, like it's kind of like when Brees Hall and Ken
Walker.
Ken Walker, sorry. Ken Walker, he didn't get a lot of work through through the air.
Pass game.
And neither did Judkins, because Henderson was elite at it. Why would they, right? And Henderson was just purely a better pass pro back, even when he's smaller than Judkins. Fucking Henderson straight up ends linebackers in the hole, dude. And he is much smaller than those guys. So I give him big kudos for that. So he can be a 3-down back. He could be better than it could be what DeAndre Swift, what we wanted him to be, what I wanted him to be.
Right,
maybe a little bit more freaking edge to him. And Henderson seems to have that. Yeah, like J.K. Dobbins, he has that kind of the makeup. So I like Henderson a lot. But if he gets into certain schemes, I'm going to be very happy. But Hampton, he can go anywhere, succeed. That's what makes him special. Like that's why he is where he is.
Did Travion have any injury history? I noticed he only played two. He only had 8 games in 22.
Big injury history.
Yes.
Go ahead. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, there's no real need to talk about it. I mean, that's the knock on him.
Well, what is
But-
it? Explain it, please.
Oh,
For
I
people
forget
who don't know.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think he tore his ACL
It was
or
his
something
knee.
like that.
His knee, okay.
I don't remember exactly what it is because it's so like already a thing. It's not like a surprise. He had
It's
a whole
baked
year.
into him. Yeah.
It's baked
Yeah.
into it. But the reason why the upside is so much there is because before he got hurt as a true freshman, he was fucking dominant. And
he was sick.
And he was the guy. He was like the next Ezekiel Elliott coming out of Ohio State, which was a big, deal. Zeke went top 5. And that's what Travion was supposed to do, right? And so the thing about Travion is last year he was fully healthy. Yeah. And it was great to see that he had a whole year healthy again. Now the difference was that he split the backfield, right? So it's tough for me with Travion, which is why I'm going to lean Judkins, which is also why I'm going to knock Travion actually down one more spot. I have another guy that I really like over him is just that injury history. Also, I need a team. My thing of why I can't see a Bucky Irving with Travion is because Bucky was so stellar in the pass game and proved that without the injuries, he could be a lead back for a team, which is why we were so in on him. Travion proved it wasn't in the cards for him to do that. His team brought him back and told him he couldn't do that, which usually, in my personal opinion, you don't go out and try to lure Quinshon over here if you thought Travion could just go and be the guy all year long. And that would have been what his draft stock would have enjoyed. But look at it now. I just don't think he's a first-round running back. I think Quinshon can squeak into the first round. The measurables put him there. I want to say
it's true.
This is so this is where I was going to go back. Travion Henderson, 5'10", 202, ran a 4.43, right? But Quinshon, 6', 221, ran a 4.48. But here's the thing. The 10-yard split is the thing that matters the most in running backs. I don't care if you ran faster than me on the long speed. If I'm hitting that whole 0.1 faster than you, then I'm going to be able to have more things open up for me. Running backs have a history of not needing to have the athleticism. So, I don't need the 4.48, right? Kyron Williams didn't have the 4.48. He was slow as a motherfucker, right?
So Snyder did Kareem Hunt 4.6, 4.6,
right. My thing is that a team is going to look at Quinshon and say, I can give the ball to that guy every freaking down. Can we work on pass pro? Can we work on, catching the ball? Kenneth Walker, right, is Quinshon in my imagination. They are both stellar running backs when given the opportunity in the perfect scheme. I don't think the scheme was perfect for Ohio State for Quinshon. Go ahead, Shane.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned pass block, and that's also a big determining factor here. So again, this is just a PFF score for pass block. So Travion had a 48.9, Quinshon had a 29.9.
I know it's supremely different. I understand that. But at the same time, the third down back getting more opportunities to pass block was Travion Henderson. So they pretty much just ran freaking Quinshon into a brick wall and then brought Travion out.
Change of pace. Boom.
The scheme just didn't fit Quinshon that well. And if Quinshon was at Texas, I feel like it would be a completely different outcome for him, because I just feel like getting the lion's share and getting the opportunity on third down would have shown a little bit more for him. Quinshon is my RB3. And I'm not really going to deviate from that at all. And I think that Joe Mixon's a perfect comp. Joe Mixon is literally everything that I think you're going to see from Quinshon, because by the end, Quinshon's going to be playing 10 years down the road, 8 years down the road, still producing as an RB1. Very similar to Joe Mixon, where he can be trusted. He has the size to be trusted. He has the history to be trusted. And he's going to grow and develop in the NFL.
I think what's really, really interesting about Quinshon is the fact that you look at his first 2 years at Ole Miss, he had like slightly over 270 rush attempts in both, and he had 1,500 yards year one, 1158 in year two, and then in Ohio State at almost 100 fewer touches, he had almost equal production at 1,060 yards. The kid's an absolute stud. Like, there's no mistaking that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Do you guys think, because like forever the running back was like eternally hated, but we finally saw Saquon get his due. He got paid, what was it, 20 mil, almost like over 20 mil per year for a 2-year extension. So the running back class seems to finally be getting to do that they're owed. And my question is that typically, because there's such a deep running back class, teams might say, you know what, let's just wait because we think we can get a stud later in round 2. Let's go another direction early on in round 1. But I wonder if the talent is just going to be too great for the teams to pass up. And if they don't go in round 1, like, you got to expect these top 4 guys to be all gone by early round 2.
Well, that's
fair?
that's why I was saying when you say, is it cockamamie that we're going back to RBs early in fantasy drafts? And it was like, well, yes, it's cockamamie, but not because the talent doesn't warrant it. It's more cockamamie that we ever got away from it in the first place. But the reason why we got away from it was because these guys, as the NFL was changing, the college game had to kind of get up to it. These spread offenses, you see, they're not so, I mean, they are spread, but they're not in the way that they were. They're not playing backyard football anymore. You see a lot more of these teams going to more pro-style offenses and setting their guys up for better success in the NFL, because I think people are finally smartening up to the fact that, hey, you know, these guys are going to knock me down. Right now in Walter football, Quinshon's going pick 33 to Cleveland Browns. In my opinion, that's a first-round pick. You know what I mean? That's a first-round pick. You're picking him first pick of the second round. You're going to say, hey, that's my guy. I think Quinshon sneaks into the first round. I'm a little worried, though, because I think that by the end of this first round, these guys that need running backs, teams, Ravens, Chargers, I think they're going to be potentially trading these picks. And where there could be landing spots. So yes, I do agree that the second round running back is going to happen with these guys. They're going to go early in the second round. I agree, but I do think to what you said, I think because of the success of these running backs, you're going to see more and more of them go in the first round. Brandon, I wanted to talk about the rest of the running back class. We haven't talked about Amarion Hampton. I personally see a path where he's better than Genty. I have on this Walter football mock draft that in the second round, Amarion Hampton goes, and or was it in the second round? Second round of the Cowboys. Okay, I look at second round to the Cowboys as better than first round to the Raiders. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I don't mind it because I believe in the player. I don't care if he drops out. It would be shocking to me if he falls out of the top 15. I think we're going to get two top 15 running backs, one top 10 tight end, and I think we're going to squeeze in maybe a Judkins late in the first round. Somebody could do it, pull the trigger as well. But I think 3 first-round RBs are in the realm of possibility. Hampton is the best all-around back in this class, to be honest with you. I think his ability out of the backfield, being able to run routes at his size, to me, when I was watching him, I was watching Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott when he was coming out of Ohio State. He looked that big and smooth like an Ezekiel Elliott coming out of Ohio State himself. He boasted one of the best speed scores at he's like a 98 something. He's a top 5% athlete, he is 90 something. He's way up top end. I just think Hampton is legitimately built as a 3-down back. There's no issues with that with Travion Henderson. No issues with injuries. He's had back-to-back 1,500 yard seasons with 15 touchdowns. He's the only one being able to do that. Like he is legitimate superstar. And if Genty didn't do what he did in Boise State, he would be far and away the RB1 of the class to me. And I think he would be going top 5, just like Genty is going to be a top 6.
Shane?
So I think Raiders are definitely going to take him back.
I think he's going to be, I love Amari Hampton. I have him as my number 2 back as well. And I don't know. So to me, like what Ashton Genty did is just, it's so special that I think that, the thing is like, so, we are just getting to this rookie class, but a lot of people who are, obsessed with college football, they're starting to talk about the rookie fatigue before it's even begun, which is kind of funny. So I feel like just that natural rookie fatigue for the true degenerates, it's okay. We want to talk about somebody else other than Ashton Genty, but I think you gotta give the guy the crown. Like he was special. He was special. Like he passes every single test, athleticism, the eye test, the production test. Like he checks every single box. But to your point, Brandon, like Amari Hampton, he's pretty damn close. And I think to me, like when I watch his game, he gives me a lot of Jonathan Taylor vibes. I don't know if that's a fair comp or not, but to me, like that's the guy he reminds me of quite a bit. And then you just look at the overall athleticism. Like I think the fact that he came in and just cemented himself with that size, like he's 6 foot 221. He cemented himself as a great player. But the thing is, like we just talked 15 minutes about Quinshon and Travion, and for a long time, like it was Ashton Genty, and then it was those 3 guys, right? That were kind of in this tier together. I think that after the combine, and I know it's silly because everybody's just running in their underwear, but I think Omari and Hampton after the combine to me kind of secured that spot for me as the RB2, and I think that he's going to be the second back drafted. And to your point, I think
he's 102.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, we basically are saying that the top 3 or 4 players are going to be running backs. So by default, he is the 102 in the draft this year.
He's the 102 to me.
Congratulations. Yeah. Here's what's kind of interesting, guys. Let's just, and I don't want to go on too far of a tangent here because a lot of what we like to talk about is strategy. Right now, we're still learning players, but if you have the first round pick and it's the first overall pick, and you're the de facto worst team in the league and you have a lot of work to do, are you still taking a player like Ashton Genty, or say you're the 102? Are you still going to take Amari Hampton, or are you trading back and trying to get capital? Are you trying to build like the wide receiver position or something like that? What do you think?
No, I'm damn it. I don't want to talk about this because I'm in this predicament, right?
Okay,
so I've been saying that I don't like building around running backs, especially in a rebuild. Especially, I buy running backs in the 3rd year of rebuilds, or if I have a really good second year, I'll do it in the 2nd year. But I am trying to pivot off a Genty for a Brian Thomas Jr. or Rashee Rice package with a pick. I'm trying to JSN's another one with a little bit extra on top for 101. Those are the type of pivots I'm trying to do because, like I said, I build around the wide receiver position. That's how I build my rebuilds. I'm going to get, as many top 15 wide receivers in my lineup as possible because I know for a fact I'm going to be able to find value running backs throughout the seasons for trade. And it's just how everything pops up. It always works out that way. So I think it's very pragmatic by leveraging Genty because he is special. Like I have no problem taking him because he is special. He is like a Gibbs type of guy to me. He doesn't have that elite top end like Gibbs, but everything else he does have. But I'm trying to get myself wide receiver early because that's how I build my dynasty teams.
Well, I do think that Genty actually does have that elite top end. Mainly because he did have 500 passing or 500 reception yards in his career. So it's not to say that he can't have an Alvin Kamara-esque career.
Oh, he can.
He really
can. Yeah, so that's my comp for him. He's the real Alvin Kamara comp, like the real one.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And I think that you're smart to leverage Genty because for a win now team, Genty is pure gold that you'll never be able to touch. I mean, Bijan Robinson is the exact same way. What I would like to do
would you rather have, Matt?
Bijan. I'd rather have Bijan because the situation for Bijan is so perfect. I mean, he's been able to show he's great. He's been, I look at it as you don't know what you don't know with Genty. So you take what you do know if you're going to package something. Honestly, if you can get Bijan plus for Genty, I just take that deal. But I like what Brandon's saying. If you're in a rebuild, you'd like to go wide receiver. And let's get a Kyle Pitts throw in. Because as we mentioned before, first round tight ends, they hit. I'm going to take the chance on Michael Penix. I'm going to take a chance on the fact that they could do something with him with the right gunslinger in the offense. 100%. So if you get a Kyle Pitts throw in, like you mentioned a trade earlier, Genty for Rashee Rice, 111. And if I can get a Kyle Pitts in that deal, that's like a smash for me. A JSN something and Kyle Pitts would be nice because we can do that. Also, if teams don't get the idea that first round tight ends are nothing and you get the 111 and Loveland is there and he goes first round, like then boom, that's a smash. Or being able to go back on Kincaid, because Kincaid's a perfect buy right now because we just don't know. Shakir actually helps Kincaid, in my opinion, because we're not having an Alpha X taking away what Kincaid can do down the middle. So I feel like that's the way to go with Genty. Also, what about the old trade back one spot? I mean, let's see what we can get to go from 101 to 1-2. You want Genty, you think Omarion is great, but he ain't Genty. We know he ain't Genty. So trade back to 2, grab Omarion plus for Genty. I like that.
Give me a couple threes, one this year, next year, like a late second or something. Like that's the kind of tax that makes it worth it, especially because I think Hampton is closer to Genty.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He's 1.5. Like, it's not a 102 hard. Yeah. It's 1.5 because, again, you don't know what you don't know yet. So this is what I wanted to say before we moved on to wide receivers is a dart throw running backs that we think will succeed. There's a lot of them in this class.
There's too many.
There almost is too many. I'm going to narrow it down to 2 guys that I really like. I don't know if you guys have a couple guys that you want to talk about, but for me, the dart throws that I like that I think are going to be really good is Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders. Like you had mentioned, he is the second best RAS scorer in the class, and he is freaking huge. Okay. Raheem Sanders, if I can pull it up real quick. Or Shane, can you pull up his size while I talk about him real quick? So
he's
last
6'2",
year, 6'2", 225. What did he run his 40 time?
4.52, which was an 81st percentile. So it's pretty damn good.
That's
remember
moving at that
for
speed.
this size, 6'2", right? Now, last year, Devy guys were all in on Rocket Sanders. Rocket Sanders was the running back to have. He came out, had 800 yards last year, and it kind of faded away as far, and now you're seeing him, you're honestly seeing him in the 5th round of rookie drafts, which I think is freaking ridiculous for a guy that has had 1,400 yards on 222 carries in his career. Last year on 881 yards rushing, at 316 yards receiving, which is incredible, right? At his size, he's a receiving everyday grinder. To me, he is the guy for the Commanders. I forgot his name already. Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson plus. Yep. He's Brian Robinson plus. Okay, Brian Robinson has 0 receiving chops, right? Like, not really, but that's not his game. That's why they bring in vet scat backs. Like, to me, a guy like Raheem Sanders in the 4th freaking round, get him a round ahead of everybody else. Raheem Sanders has prototypical, every down running back in his outcome. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The other one, again, we're talking late guys. Jaden Blue, dude. I can't quit Texas Longhorn running backs, just like I'm sure Brandon can't quit Tennessee running backs because he's a Kamara, Jalen, right?
Samson.
Yeah, right. So I bet you're going to say Samson, right? A lot of people
He'll be in the top 10.
I personally think Jaden Blue, 6 foot, 200. So he has more of a, you know, he's a smaller profile at only 200 pounds.
He came in at 5'9", 196. What he weighed in at.
Yeah. So, but in today's NFL, that's great.
It's not bad. Yeah.
5.4 average yards per carry. Again, a guy in the 700 yards, right? But I look at him as more of a Bucky Irving. I look at it as a guy that he can pass catch, so he's going to be in there on third down. What else does he have? He's got 800 yards, 300 yards receiving in his rookie year in an outcome. So we look at him now next year as, oh shit, he's Bucky Irving. Yeah, a 4th, 5th round guy that just so happened to get an opportunity. I really like him. I think a lot of people like Bashul Tootin from Virginia Tech.
I was going to talk about him. That's one.
Tootin's definitely up there. But just before, you kind of buried the lead, Matt. Like, Blue's superpower is his speed. He ran a 4.38.
That's what I'm saying.
So he's smaller, but he's quick as hell. Sorry,
that's what I'm saying. So,
give me Devon Achan's freaking twin and Tootin. That's who just give me that seam and run that mother through it, dude. That's Tootin, man. Like, he is messing around.
You said, give me that theme.
He hits the seam, and he divides the defense and slices them up, man. Tootin's awesome. That's one guy, but dude, I don't know what it is, but I like Cam Skattebo.
That's what I was going to mention. Damn it. So Skattebo is my RB5. He's my Travion. He's my 5 over Travion.
Wow.
If you are wrong to not draft Cam Skattebo as 1.12.
Man, we are going to be ahead of market on him because there's just this thing with prejudice that people don't want to get past. And
why? What would that prejudice be, Brandon? By chance,
the white man struggle in football. That's what it is. Like, this guy is a 3-down back that is going to be a professional football player and a leader for some team coming out of the 3rd round this year. Okay. This guy is a heart and soul kind of football player. He is similar to my guy that was the backup for Bijan, Tyler Algier. He has an all 3-down back kind of mentality. And dude, he has passing chops coming out of Arizona State University from our guy that we liked a couple years ago, Rachaad White, right? Because of the passing down chops. And Skattebo has that in spades this year. And he is one of the best at 14.4 target college target share. That's a 95th percentile, boys. This kid is the real deal, and I like him a lot. And he is going to steal. He's going to steal somebody's job in the NFL, and it's going to be awesome to watch.
Go ahead, Shane. We literally took all the guys that you can't say anybody now.
No, I got nobody. I listen. Most of the guys that I've even heard about are those guys. So that's interesting. Does he age where you at all? He just turned 23.
Absolutely not.
Probably not, right?
Running backs, all I care about is the first 4 years. That's it. That's all I care about because I'm drafting more.
Hey, Tyrone Tracy was old. You look, he's Tyrone Tracy plus, to be honest, because he has way more everything than Tyrone Tracy has. So just give him the ball, let him run. They call him juiced up James Conner. I love that comp. I think that he is absolutely better than James Conner ever was, ever will be.
Got a lot of Mark Ingram to him, but with better hands.
Better Mark Ingram is another great way.
Better Mark Ingram.
Better Mark Ingram is a perfect way. All right, let's transition to the wide receiver position. Shane, maybe I'll let you start here. We have Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden. Do you think that there's anybody that deserves to be in? Now, I'm not saying they're all in the same tier, but do you think that there's anybody from post-combine that's squeaking in based on their performance?
Well, so the player that I've just naturally been gravitating towards throughout this whole process, and I don't know, I'm still having a hard time like doing my official rankings, so I'm gonna totally cop out. But I'm really liking Luther Burden's profile right now. Like he really does.
I knew you would. That is your kind of guy, dude.
He's just kind of my type, right? But I don't know, like when I watch his tape, I know there's like the hunt between 190 and 200 pound like type player, 6 foot, but he reminds me a lot of Rashad Bateman. Now this is like the good Rashad Bateman, who we thought could be very special coming out of school. And listen, last year he actually did start to show some glimpses. Now, will he be anything? No. I'm talking about Rashad, but like Luther Burden at this point, he seems to be the guy that I'm really gravitating towards the most. Honestly, the whole reason I've jumped on this podcast tonight, guys, is because I kind of want Brandon's take on Matthew Golden, because like he's like the wide receiver. I've heard people say he's the one. He went out and he ran a killer time at the combine, and I just know, Brandon, like you were below. So I'm very curious to know. This is the whole reason I'm on the show. I want to get your take on Matthew Golden and why you're so much lower on him than everybody else.
Okay. Matthew Golden is good, but I feel like with his height, weight, speed, and size, I like some other guys like a Jalen Knoll better.
I like Jalen Knoll.
I think Jalen Knoll is smoother on. I think he knows the game a little bit more. I understand that Matthew Golden is going to be a 99 percentile athlete. But the same thing I said about Xavier Worthy last year.
Yeah.
I think if there was no injuries on Kansas City and everybody was healthy and Rashee Rice was what he played throughout the year, I think Worthy would not be nearly the breakout guy he was this year just because of the archetype he's in. And I feel like the same thing with Golden. I feel like Quinn Ewers was a deep ball thrower. He has better timing with the deep ball throw. He really doesn't have that intermediate game down. And so I think that's where Golden separates, is deep down the field because of that speed. But I got to dive deeper in Matthew Golden because he is rising on so many people's boards, but I just don't see the every down fantasy football wide receiver one that people are seeing with this guy. I just don't see that. I see the archetype of maybe a top 24 wide receiver, and like here and there, like some pop shots, but I don't see that perennial difference maker.
Yeah, well, I think, admittedly, I was definitely higher on Xavier Worthy than you guys were last year. I didn't have him at the top of the class, but I was higher on him last year. And to be honest, Worthy kind of performed how we thought he was going to perform. Like he was what I thought he was going to be. Now, what kind of killed me is I had him one spot ahead of our boy BTJ, and because what I was worried about was what it came down to was I thought Xavier Worthy was a better route runner than BTJ, which kind of has proven to be a fact. No, it's true.
Not a fact.
It's not a fact.
Okay, we can debate that later.
How can you be a better route runner as a straight line guy? That's it. That's all Worthy does.
Worthy's
more than just that.
Worthy's a bubble screen manufactured kind of player, dude. Brian Thomas Jr. is a difference maker. Randy Moss, motherfucking wide receiver.
I've conceded. Brian Thomas
continue
Jr.
to concede. Continue to concede. Actually, I ended up having to where Brandon fucked with me last year, and this wasn't a problem because they both ended up well. But remember, Brandon, I said to you that I had BTJ 1 and then Malik Neighbors 2, and you fucking told me absolutely no. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm seeing it. And what scared me?
I didn't realize that we were going to have all-time great wide receivers coming out like every. I mean, look at Lad McConkey. Shane's guy. Shane had Lad higher than everybody out of us three right here. So he won on that. We won a little bit with Brian Thomas Jr. We won with Neighbors is.
Well, I had Lad like 3 or 4, so it wasn't like it was, But the difference was that Malik Neighbors was so much more efficient off of press coverage. Because the way that BTJ won out of press was just to do one shoulder dip. He was reliant on his speed, which I thought maybe wouldn't be as efficient in the real NFL. So that's what made me bump him back. to 3, like, you know,
Well,
and just
we
give it.
didn't-
But it worked in
we-
the NFL.
We didn't realize that the Jags finally realized, dude, throw this fucking alien in the slot and and also throw him in the flanker and have him just do crossing routes and just give it to him on the run and let him outrun everybody. Like,
it's free. It's freaking free Brian Thomas Jr. because Trevor Lawrence is not the QB for his talent.
Yeah.
But we have to admit, like, Brian Thomas Jr., we thought he was going to be good, but he outperformed even what we thought he was
100%.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
But okay, so let's hearken this back
Yes.
to
Okay.
Xavier
Yes.
Worthy. And this is why, and I'm kind of offended you didn't ask my take on Matthew Golden, because I'm
curious.
the
Yes.
Matthew
Yes.
Golden
Please.
truther.
Oh,
because
you
He likes
are?
Matthew
Okay,
Golden.
perfect.
He likes him.
I was the truther pre-Texas because what
okay.
ended up happening was, here's my issue. Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden on the same offense, playing the same role with the same quarterback year after year, but Xavier Worthy outproduced him without now the difference is Matthew Golden had Isaiah Bond, which essentially was a very similar type receiver, right? Worthy had freaking what's his face,
Adonai Mitchell,
AD Mitchell, who played more of an X role. So it actually worked.
X that failed.
It worked a little bit less in Xavier's favor because now you had somebody that you could manufacture targets for, where Xavier Worthy was just a deep threat guy. Well, guess what? Matthew Golden did get typecasted into the deep threat guy, but he underperformed Xavier Worthy with the same quarterback with less on the field. So that's what kind of tears me down a little bit about Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
Why people
He's
are
outside
bumping
of
him
my top
up?
5.
Why people bump him up is because of the speed, but this is the stupid thing the NFL does all the time. We did it with Ruggs. We do it with everybody. So that's the only thing. He will go in the first round. Statistically, first round receivers, again, 53% hit rate. I'm still not going to select Matthew Golden anywhere near the top 10 picks based on hit rate, based on lots of other things, but I like Matthew Golden. I think he is 2.1. I am selecting him over Luther Burden. No offense.
Wow, that's hot. Like, because Luther Burden is like consensus wide receiver 3 right now.
So here's the thing about, and great, this is why we do this. Watch Luther Burden's combine again. Okay. If you watch the stats and watch the combine on tape, they look like two different players because you read the stats and everything. You read what everybody talked about. But when you watch Luther Burden play, or at least he doesn't look comfortable. I mean, he's a guy that we all mention this, and this has been his comp forever, is he's Deebo Samuel. Okay, great. Why is Deebo Samuel struggling right now? Well, once you get another alpha on the field, once you're in an offense that doesn't feature you anymore, now, okay, what do we do with you? What do we do with your talent? Well, we put you in the backfield. We'll give you more opportunities to get the ball in your hand in the short area, but he's not a deep field guy. Luther Burden is not going to be an X receiver in the NFL that is like CeeDee Lamb or anybody. So what is Luther Burden ever going to be that's worth a first-round draft pick? So I don't know. I look at Matthew Golden. I look at Matthew Golden as an easier path for me to Jordan Addison production, a surefire number 2. But that's why I just told you. Matthew Golden 2.1, Luther Burden 2.2. Great, second round picks. Let me see what they can do. If you can manufacture touches for Luther Burden and give him opportunities to score, give him ability to amass all. Great, he'll do well. Probably won't happen. He has no BTJ in his blood. He has no Malik Neighbors. I ain't drafting him in first round.
So this is, and Brandon, I know you wanted to say this is kind of how I feel about Luther Burden versus say like a Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden's probably going to be good no matter what, but he might be okay at best, right? He'll have pop weeks, but like he's not going to be somebody you're going to be comfortable plugging into.
He's a best ball guy
on a weekly basis. He's a best ball player, right? Whereas I feel like Luther Burden, he's one of these players where he could have absolute epic upside, or he could have just pitiful.
He could have 2 Deebo Samuel years, and
or
then
like a Treylon Burks style. So that he's more hit or miss, which is why I would have a hard time having Luther Burden as my 1. I mean, the player that I'm kind of in love with as well is Emeka Mbuka. Like,
there we go.
He just fits. Yeah, we haven't really talked about him, right? But
we don't need to talk about him. He's JSN. He's the JSN of the class.
Yep.
Yeah. So is he your 1?
No,
He's got, no,
no. Tet is
Tet your one.
Tet's awesome. Tet is Mike Evans. You know,
Tet is Drake London with some yak.
Yeah.
and he's bigger than Drake, like the way they play. And this was my knock on Drake London, which is actually why I should have been more into Drake London, because I was like, well, Drake London isn't being able to be a big body receiver. He's got size, but he doesn't play that game. Well, it turns out
he does.
Well, it's not about the size, though. His dynamism is what makes him special. So the fact that he is quicker twitch and all this stuff is what makes him special. And that's actually why it's like Mike Evans isn't that guy. Mike Evans is not a quick twitch guy. Well, he doesn't need to be. Haas's ball comes down every time. That's Tet McMillan. Emeka Egbuka is the JSN. So I think it's a pretty shot clear first 6 or 7, 8, 9 picks when you factor in Cam
It's
Ward.
so funny you're saying JSN and you're saying that class, because I think Luther Burden has a lot of Rashee Rice in him. I think he can be that volume.
It has to be Rashee
Rice, but like that type of player. So this is cool. I forget where I pulled it off, but I just saw this. Okay, I just took a picture of it. Here is Luther Burden, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashee Rice. Luther Burden, first down per route run, 9.37. Amon-Ra, first down per route run is 10.23. Rashee Rice, 9.5. Career average reception grade for PFF for Luther Burden, 76.67. For Amon-Ra, 73.33. For Rashee Rice, 74.75. Career average yards per route run, 2.28. Amon-Ra, 2.15. Rashee Rice, 2.25. Dude, literally identical. Like it, like you can go through the comp here is Rashee Rice, and it just depends on who the system he goes to be honest, on how high I'm gonna make him, because right now he's my wide receiver 4, because for the brand, I love that fucking AJ Brown type guy, Trey Harris. I have a hard time quitting the big boy bully dog X wide receiver out there. But I do like the fact that Trey Harris can play on the opposite side a little bit more. He's a lot more AJ Brown than a Jonathan Mingo coming out of Ole Miss. He's got a lot more to him. He is ridiculously he has yards per route run this year was over 5, even though he had a shortened year. He just was analytically, he is unbelievable. If he would have played all year, he would have been 1,515 touchdowns. So, that's the kind of guy that Trey Harris was tracking to be this year. It's just injuries kind of stopped it. So that's where I think the ceiling's a little bit capped for a Luther Burden, but I do think in the right system, man, he can really, really compile a lot of fantasy points.
Go ahead, Shane.
No, I was just going to say, to me, it seems like there's generally a consensus top 4 in terms of the wide receivers, right? Is what it kind of feels like, and pretty definitively, Tet's the number 1, and then it's your flavor between Emeka, Matthew Golden, and Luther Burden.
I just think Emeka is the safest pick in the draft, isn't he? Besides Genty,
you know what? I get the Chris Olave vibes, right? That was the same argument why you might take Chris Olave over Garrett Wilson. He might just be a little bit safer. Now, obviously, the injuries for that player has.
Well, they both haven't really hit.
They both haven't done shit. Drake London, that was
okay. So I'm gonna
either Burks or London for me there.
I'm going to surprise everybody, then bounce out of the podcast because my hard stop happened already, and I'll let Shane end this. But my wide receiver rankings personally are Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Higgins, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden.
Okay. I think Jaden Higgins is going to be a first-round wide receiver, 100%.
Maybe. Even if he doesn't, again, the hit rate still isn't successful enough for first-round receivers for me to do much about it. But I still believe that it goes Jaden Higgins, 111, 112, then Matthew Golden, then Luther Burden. If you can get Luther Burden where you got Deebo Samuel in the 2.2, you're great. This is perfect. That's your perfect shot.
So what would you guys do? We know Deebo is gonna crack. Like he's not.
Last question,
Deebo.
Brandon. Last question.
What if Luther is a commander at some point? Is that a great spot for him, or is he going to be buried?
No, that is a good spot because they already have their guy on the outside that they trust. So they're not going to put him on as the X. I think that is where you can be successful with Luther Burden if he's not an 100%. X. Again, exactly what they did. They started Rashee Rice, and then all of a sudden they move him inside. He gets more successful, and that's where you see it. So any team that wants to make Luther Burden an X, it's wrong. Versus where Emeka Egbuka can play every position, and that's the Chris Olave vibes, where it's just like, what makes sense? Well, then you get 10 concussions and then you might never play again. Anyway, that is the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. We still have way more to talk about the rookies.
Oh, yes.
That was a primer. We will get more into the second, third, and fourth round, guys. We gave you a couple sleepers there, a lot of talk. We'd love to hear your comments, concerns. Hit us up at the Flex Network 1. Follow DFS Army at DFS Army. For Brandon, for Shane, and me, Flex Matt, we will see you next time.
Sheesh. Big time. No man. Diamonds in my teeth. I got a lot of shine.